So Cook's Pest Control was going around getting rid of spiders, and check out this hornet's nest. They said, "Sir, you have a huge hornet's nest." So let's get away from them. Let's get away, Jan. But I have my hornet spray, and I think maybe I could get them. He told me not to. He said they would come back and they would have on suits. He said if I mess with it, hundreds of hornets will come out and they will attack. But we'll see. Maybe at the end of the video, I'll get after it. The reason I'm showing you a hornet's nest is because today we find ourselves still in Acts chapter 9, and doesn't it seem like everywhere the Apostle Paul goes, he stirs up a hornet's nest? We started the chapter, and Paul isn't even a believer. In fact, he's hunting down Christians. He's on the way to Damascus, but on the way to Damascus, remember, he saw Jesus. He had a conversion experience, but it blinded him. And when he gets to Damascus, he's blinded. He doesn't eat for 3 days. And God speaks to a believer named Ananias and tells him to go to the Apostle Paul. Ananias said, "Are you sure, God? This guy's been trying to kill Christians. He might kill me." But God reassured him. And Paul's eyes were opened, scales fell from his eyes so that he could see. And now that he can see, Paul begins to boldly preach in Damascus. He had gone there to arrest Christians. Now he's going to synagogues. Jan keeps looking at the hornet's nest. They're really busy right now because it's almost dark. I'll let you know if they start coming this way. And so Paul is preaching, and the Bible says he baffles the Jews. They are baffled. So what do you do when you can't win an argument with someone? You try to kill them. And that's where our passage begins today. In verse 23, it says, there was a conspiracy among the Jews to kill Paul. Paul found out about it, so they lowered him through an opening in the wall, put him in a giant basket, and in the dark of night, Paul escapes from Damascus with his life. He goes down to Jerusalem, and he tries to spend time with the disciples there, and the same thing happens there that happened with Ananias. They're all afraid of Paul. They don't believe he's really a Christian. Maybe it's a trick. That's where Barnabas gets involved. Barnabas tells them, Paul had a conversion experience. Paul preached boldly in Damascus. And so eventually, the Christians welcome Paul with open arms in Jerusalem. But what happens is, Paul preaches so boldly that the Hellenistic Jews, that is those who speak Greek, they come together and they decide that they're going to try to kill Paul in Jerusalem. I told you, he stirs up a hornet's nest everywhere he goes. In a matter of 6 verses in 2 different cities, he has got a contract out on his life. He fled Damascus, and now he leaves Jerusalem because they're trying to kill him, and they send him away to Caesarea. But we conclude our passage today in verse 31 with good news. It says the church enjoyed a time of peace, and the numbers were increasing on a daily basis. A couple of thoughts for you. First, did you know Barnabas was called the son of encouragement? That's what he's referred to as in Acts chapter 4. And indeed, he is the one that encouraged all of the believers in Jerusalem to welcome Paul, to receive him with open arms. And I just think perhaps today there's someone that you might know who could use some encouragement. Maybe at work, at school, a neighbor or a family member. Why don't you reach out to someone today and encourage them? My second thought is, when we share the gospel, it's powerful. Powerful so much so that it says the church was increasing in numbers. People come to Jesus. Heaven is more populated. It's phenomenal. But what the world doesn't understand, it persecutes. And the world may not always understand when we share our faith. That's why Paul was persecuted, and it is why perhaps you may be persecuted as well. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. Share your faith. Be an encourager. And thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go see if I can kill a few hornets.